Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show. We give you all of the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us as always is John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you from right here at the Collider Video Studios here in Burbank, California. We got some great stuff to talk about today. I'm very excited.
Also here, John Schnepp.
Hey, what's going on? Got to see Force Awakens yesterday. What's going on?
Also here, Kristian Harloff.
I like that shirt, Schnepp.
Hey, thanks for getting it for me, Harloff.
Well, as some of you may know, Vin Diesel and crew are already shooting the upcoming XXX sequel, the third in the franchise, but only the second for Diesel, who was replaced by Ice Cube in the second film. XXX State of the Union. Vin recently took to his social media to announce two cast additions. First is Samuel L. Jackson, who returns for the third time to reprise his role as Augustus Gibbons, and newly crowned UFC featherweight champion Conor McGregor. John, what do you think of these additions to the new XXX movie?
I love me some Ice Cube. I love Ice Cube. It was one of the worst casting decisions in the history of motion pictures to make him the new XXX when he gets like, really? Ice Cube's the new XXX, huh? Anyway, moving past that, yeah, I was just fully expecting. I was actually kind of surprised when I saw Diesel say that, hey, Samuel L. Jackson's coming back. I just kind of assumed it. The addition of Conor McGregor, though, hopefully it's a small role because I have no idea if this guy can act. So small, little, maybe even a non-speaking role, kind of like George St. Pierre in Captain America: Winter Soldier or something like that. That would be fine. Let me bring up the UFC fan in me for a second. This Conor McGregor dude is a bad man. This dude is a bad man. For those of you who don't follow UFC, he just fought for the featherweight title this past weekend against a guy who has not lost in 10 years, against the number one ranked pound-for-pound combat fighter in the world in Jose Aldo, and he knocked him the fuck out in 13 seconds. 13 seconds. This is a bad... Anyway, so it's going to be a tiny little role. It is interesting seeing Vin Diesel, though, continue his trend of, let me go back to the franchises that were working for me. Because remember, he had about a 5-year stretch there where he tried a bunch of different films and none of them worked. And then he's like, maybe I will go back to Fast and Furious. Maybe I will go back to XXX. And I'm glad that he is. I'm looking forward to this. Sam Jackson, Conor McGregor editions. This is all good to me. What about you, Kristian?
Yeah, it makes sense to me as well, too. And I think that it's exactly for the Fast and Furious reasons is why he's going back to it. And I also think it's when you look at somebody, he's a lot younger than Stallone and Vin Diesel, but he's a smart guy. I mean, Vin Diesel, Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he's a smart guy. And he pays attention to, well, wait a minute, people are going back to franchises that they love their stars in. And look what's been happening with me in Fast and Furious. So why not try it? Riddick didn't do gangbusters numbers, but it's certainly enough to where they want to do a TV series on it. So it makes sense for him to go back to it. And I don't know. All I know is I watched the fight, and the dude's a great fighter. It makes sense to put him in a smaller role, and maybe you don't need the best acting in the world, but if he's kicking ass in it, yeah, why not? So I like it.
What do you think?
I like Conor McGregor's attitude. Like, he almost reminds me of a wrestler. Like when he's smack talking, and he's like, he just has this attitude about him. So as long as they just take that natural attitude and be like, say all that stuff, but with these lines, and just make that, like, just bring your personality to whatever role that they cast him in a XXX 3. Right. And Sam Jackson was already in the first one, the very first one. So it makes sense that they got him back because he creates that tie, that glue that you need to. When Vin Diesel's like, we're forgetting about the second one, we're just kind of moving forward. I think it's great, and I like that Diesel does a bunch of these like really super popular, comebacks as far as like, and that allows him to keep doing these Riddick movies because I like those Riddick films.
Well, you know what it also does as well is because this franchise, the XXX, is not as well known as say Fast and Furious or even Riddick.
Right.
So it gives them a chance to kind of reinvent it as well, and then you are bringing in Sam Jackson, who is now Nick Fury. And that brings in a lot more too. So obviously, I think that's the reason, John, that the announcement came in to let everybody know that obviously, yeah, we know he's going to come back for it, but the announcement to it to maybe some fans out there, the younger generation that don't really know about XXX or him in XXX. Definitely. So the fact that they're doing it, it's a way to say, yeah, well, we got Nick Fury in this movie, and we got your new featherweight. Is it featherweight?
Featherweight.
New featherweight champion of the world. He's going to be in there as well too. It's a smart marketing play for a franchise that a lot of people may have forgotten about.
Sure.
All right, what's next?
Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is already in heavy pre-production and is set for release on May 5th, 2017. According to a report in The Wrap, director James Gunn now has his eye on the Hateful Eight star Kurt Russell to play the role of Star-Lord's father. The mystery of the father was set up right from the beginning of Guardians and was referenced again at the end of the film. Schnepp, would the casting of Kurt Russell give you any hints as to who Star-Lord's dad might be?
Man, Kurt Russell is the greatest. You got The Computer Wears Tennis Shoes. You've got Escape from New York. You've got The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China. And then you've got Death Proof. And now you've got The Hateful Eight. And, of course, Bone Tomahawk. You should see. This guy's on a roll. And if you forgot how awesome Kurt Russell is, wait till you see him in The Hateful Eight. It's a really great film. I can't wait to see. I really hope this isn't just a rumor and that they really get him. And I think I went through some of the Guardians of the Galaxy, some of the mythology from the comics, and I really, now I'm kind of leaning towards Kurt Russell playing an Earthling from maybe 20 years, 30 years earlier, and I think that character will be Major Vance Astro is his name. He's an astronaut, and he was from the original Guardians of the Galaxy, the 1969-70s version, where he got taken as an astronaut and became this character called Major Victory. So I don't know if they're going to keep Major Victory.
But didn't they say that he wasn't full human in the first one?
Yeah, but they can add and they can make it a hybrid origin. But
it's some ancient race or something like that.
I think some kind of origin it'll be mixed in there. But that's my guess is that it's going to be this astronaut character, and that'll be Star-Lord's dad.
What do you think?
I think it's perfect because you mentioned Big Trouble in Little China. What's the line that everyone in Guardians of the Galaxy always says? Like, who? Star-Lord, me. How about Jack Burton?
Yes.
He's like, who? Who? Burton, me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Bam.
And you go back and you watch young Kurt Russell, you could easily see him being Chris Pratt's dad. I mean, they were similar, and you have this great actor in Kurt Russell that, like you said, Schnepp, he's making a kind of a comeback, and he's amazing. Even he was in one of the Fast and Furious movies as well too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Totally. And he was good in that one. I would love to see him in Guardians. I think that's a good move. I wonder if it was the same type of role, because I remember they were going after Pacino at one point too. I wonder if it's just like they're changing up because Pacino's not a lot older, but older than Kurt Russell. But yeah, how do you not want Kurt Russell in this movie?
Kurt just is getting into now the habit of popping up in other franchises, which is great because Expendables 3 was not great, but a couple things were great. Mel Gibson was great in it, and I liked Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell in Expendables 3 also?
Was he not the guy who recruits the team?
I think you're thinking of Fast and Furious.
I'm thinking of Fast and the Furious. Thank you.
I did the same thing too. As I was
What
going
did I
through it.
say?
You said Expendables 3.
I said Expendables 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I
yes.
can see though, but that makes sense.
It felt like this thing. I'm totally crossing them over. But yeah, sorry. Fast and Furious. He popped up in that thing. He was great in it for the small part that he had. It's never a mistake to add talent. Kurt Russell is world-class talent. So it depends on who the character is, right? I mean, so we'll find out a lot more. First of all, let's remember, he hasn't signed yet. They're talking to him. That's who James Gunn wants. That's what the report says anyway. So let's wait and find out. But if they do move ahead and announce Kurt Russell, I'm going to be excited about it. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Actress Scarlett Johansson has had an incredible run these last few years with blockbusters and critical hits like Her, Avengers, Under Her Skin, Chef, and others on the way. Now, according to a report in The Wrap, Johansson has signed up for the upcoming R-rated comedy Move That Body. The project is described like this. 5 friends rent a beach house in Miami for a bachelorette weekend and accidentally kill a male stripper. Kristian, do you like the sounds of Move That Body?
You know how that goes, Ashley.
This literally sounds like my future bachelorette party.
What's the movie that was with Jeremy Piven?
Right. It was evil deeds or mean big bad things, very bad things.
Very bad.
The one with Christian Slater?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Very Bad Things.
Yeah. Very Bad Things.
That's what it reminds me of, and I think I do like the sound of this movie, and it's perfect. This shows what Scarlett Johansson has done in the smart moves she makes with her career, because when she does something like, let's say, Black Widow, she spins it into her own starring movie. I hated Lucy, but it did well, and it showed
made bank,
and it also showed that she, regardless of the movie, I believed her as an action star for sure, and then she's doing more action movies, and she made her footing there. But now jumping back into comedy, she can do comedy. She did with Don Juan. What's the one?
Don John.
Don John.
Don John. Yeah.
So Don John, she did that as well too. So I could see this. This could be really bizarre. Could be really funny. And I think that this, to me, this goes back to what we were talking about when one of the viewers wrote in about when you have women and you're putting them in the reboots of, say, Ghostbusters or Ocean's 11, and we're like, well, the premises or maybe them standing alone and doing something else could be interesting.
Yes.
This is a premise like Very Bad Things, but isn't a remake of Very Bad Things. Right. It is something that's standing out on its own. So this is something that I go, yes, that's a movie that could be really interesting and could then further exactly like some really funny women in it, some people who maybe aren't known specifically for comedy and making them comedy stars and giving them the kind of like a Hangover type movie. I think this is a really smart move.
She's never really done comedy before. I mean, she kind of played the straight man in a few, like in Chef, but she wasn't like a comedic character in Chef.
Well, that's why I brought up Don John, because it's kind of
I
comedy
loved her.
drama.
I mean, I hated her character, but I loved her
She
in Don John.
hit those comedy moments.
Oh yeah, she really did. And I think to see her in just a full out comedy, I think is going to be really interesting because she's proven, as you've pointed out, she can do drama great, she can do voiceover great, she can do action great. Let's see her in a full blown out comedy. This sounds like it could be really fun and funny. What is going to make or break this to me is going to be the supporting cast around her.
Yeah.
Like this seems like a movie you could really make a great cast with.
Like Bridesmaids.
Kind of like a new version of Bridesmaids. I think this could be really great, so I'm really enthusiastic for it.
Well, she's done comedy before. She was in The Spirit. Remember, guys?
I don't even remember her being in that.
She was in it with Sam Jackson. I love Scarlett Johansson. She can do no wrong, even in The Spirit. I love her flexibility from the Black Widow all the way to Under the Skin. She's not afraid to take risks. You're going to see her in Ghost in the Shell, and now you're going to see her in this like murder mystery comedy. So everything about this sounds like it's really fun, and I like that she's willing to take chances. She's going to bring with her like that comic sensibility that she had all the way back in Ghost World. You could see that elements there, and she's going to exploit it.
All right. Anything else? Is there anything else next?
We got one more topic.
One more topic?
One more topic.
I thought we were done.
About.
Okay,
no,
one more topic.
No. Tomorrow, Star Wars: The Force Awakens opens in theaters nationwide. Fortunately, everyone else at this table has already seen the film over the last couple of days. So, guys, what do you think of Star Wars: The Force Awakens?
No spoilers.
Okay, no spoilers. We
spoilers.
will not give spoilers. We will, just going to let you know, we are going to have a spoilers review, a full spoilers review on Friday. We're not going to put it out till everybody's had a chance to see the movie. Make sure you do not watch our spoilers review until you have seen the movie, because that'll be a full blown out spoilers thing. You know, we got back from the world premiere, you, me, and Mark and Tiffany, and we were there for about 7 hours. We did the after party. I was in the studio at 6 o'clock that morning, here all night. Then we came back in the studio at midnight and shot our first review, which went up as soon as the embargo lifted last night at midnight. So we do have a review up if you want to go check that out there. Now, we're pretty tired in it. We were pretty tired. There was some drinking done, not by me. There was a little bit of drinking done. So we were talking about the review.
Way to throw Mark under the bus.
Mark was pretty hammered.
Yeah.
So we did the review, but a lot of people said, why don't you seem enthusiastic? It's like, it was past midnight. So we thought we would talk about it again here. But I'm going to say one thing about this movie, okay? Before we get into the review part, because this has been gnawing at me and bothering me, and I got to say it up here first, okay? Now, if you're an idiot, you're going to consider what I'm about to say a spoiler. It is not. By any definition of in any word, in any language, this is not a spoiler. But I do have to let you know about something because it came from me and it was wrong.
And me.
Well, okay, well,
Yeah, I'll take partial.
I will drag you under the bus with me then here.
I don't have to go under the bus.
No,
on
you're
this
not.
one.
The one thing I'm going to let you know about this movie, okay, this is the closest thing to a spoiler we're going to be talking about, and trust me, this is not a spoiler, all right? A week ago, maybe a little bit more, we ran a story here because there was a piece of art going around that people saying this is what this is what Supreme Leader Snoke in the movie looks like, all right? Now, that was run in a magazine. And so I contacted somebody separately that I knew was fairly close to production and asked them, is this indeed what Snoke looks like? Kristian contacted somebody totally separate and asked them, is this indeed what Snoke...
Because we didn't buy it at first.
No, we didn't.
No, we were like, that's
believe
not
it at
going to be...
first.
He's not going to look like that.
But then we contacted outside sources, and both of those sources said to us, yes, that is what he looks like. And then we got on this show, and I looked into the camera, and I told you that we can confirm that this, and we pointed to the picture at the back, this is what Snoke looked like. Whether that means he's Plagueis or not, who knows, blah, blah. The piece of art that's going around might be a fan piece of art, but we've confirmed with separate sources this is what he looks like. And I'm going to tell you this. It's not. It's not. We were wrong. We were dead wrong. This is why I do not ever want to be in the scoop breaking thing. This is the second time I've been burned. Once 7 years ago, when Edgar Wright was still directing Ant-Man, and I had got what I consider to be reliable information, that dude from the piano.
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody was going to be Ant-Man, and that was wrong. And now it's happened to me again because that was wrong. I hate when YouTube channels, websites, whatever, mislead audiences. And I hate it 10 times more when I'm the jackass doing the misleading. So I wanted to let you guys all know up front what we ran saying, this is what Snoke like. Totally wrong. Completely wrong. I'm embarrassed by it. I hate it. I give crap to any other site that misleads audience. I cannot cut myself a break when I'm the one who does the misleading. We were dead wrong on that. We thought we covered our bases. We checked with multiple sources, and it was still wrong. This is why I do not want to be in the scoop breaking game. So my apologies to any of you who bought what we were selling, because we sold you a bad bill of goods. We were wrong about that.
Right, but we weren't misleading it, because the thing was too, because I got a couple of tweets about it afterwards, because there was other art that came out afterwards, like, well, that's what he really looks like, and I stuck to my guns, and I said, from the people that we heard it from, nope, that's not what he looks like. So we weren't under everything that we had heard from the people in our sources were confirming it. So just like John said too, I definitely there are some things that we got wrong about our predictions, and there are some things we got right.
Well, there's one thing about being wrong about predictions.
I'm just saying,
that's
but
fun.
I'm just saying. But part of the things that we got wrong was this picture. Like, there are things that we got wrong, and there are things that we got right as well too. But this, I understand what you're saying though too. But yes, I'd also like to offer the apology for getting that information and not being correct.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway,
I was there when you guys were confirming it with different sources. They were on the phone, and I remember one of your guys' sources said it's not the final version, but they look kind of like it. So they were like, it was like, I mean, that's, that happens sometimes. So I wouldn't beat yourselves up too much.
We goofed. Still, I do not. I hate being the one responsible for disseminating wrong information. So my apologies. Now, with that out of the way,
Jar Jar.
Jar Jar is Snoke. Yeah. Spoilers.
Let's get to some more fun stuff.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit with no spoilers. Remember, spoilers come on Friday. Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I cannot begin to tell you. People ask me, John, did you cry? John, did you cry? Remember, I don't cry and stuff, but as I was sitting in that theater, ladies and gentlemen, and I did miss the Fox fanfare for a split second, but I got over it as soon as the Lucasfilm logo came up. Screen goes dark. A long time ago in a galaxy.
Boom.
I right now, you can see it. You see the hair on my arm. Look at the butt. I'm getting goosebumps right now just remembering that happens, and then the crawl. It's a great crawl.
Crawl's amazing.
It is a great opening crawl. I was a little worried about it because especially going into the prequels, the prequels one were not impressive to say the least. We're just talking about the crawls. Right. And this crawl came up, and it's like it wasted within 2 lines you were hooked.
Yeah,
I'm not going to tell you what was in the crawl, of course.
I think the Phantom Menace one was a sprawl. It wasn't a crawl. It was just like from Tax Federation sleeping.
Tax embargoes and anyway. So the movie, I had so much fun watching the movie. Now I'm going to tell you right up front, I am not going to allow myself to drink the Kool-Aid like I did with the Phantom Menace so many years ago, just because it's a Star Wars film. I'm not going to allow myself to. So I'm going to tell you right now, without telling you what the problems are. There are a couple of issues with the movie. There are. Just like any movie, there are a couple of issues with the movie, but I can tell you wholeheartedly, there are no issues with this movie that were like the prequel issues, where like 10 times in a movie, watching the prequels, an issue would happen, this type of issue that make you just throw your head back, roll your eyes, and go, oh my God, did they really just do that? None of those in this movie whatsoever. The performances were great. The action was wonderful. The visual effects, right on par. The story and plot, I thought, were great. It was a fun, viscerally exciting experience. And you got to remember this. J.J. Abrams was given the task As a lot of Star Wars fans like me complain about a lot of the new stuff that quite often that doesn't feel like Star Wars. So he had the task of creating something that felt true to Star Wars, would please the old fans, yet at the same time usher in a new generation 30 years later. And I'm going to tell you right now, J.J. Abrams pulled it off. He absolutely pulled it off. A monumental Herculean task is what he had put in front of him, and he pulled it off. I thought from the trailers that John Boyega might be one of the weak links in the film. Turns out John Boyega was my favorite character in the film. I mean, his performance was great. I like the way the character was written. Anyway, before I just start babbling, Kristian, your impressions, your thoughts of
well, apparently the fans think I hated it, and I certainly did not hate it. I liked it a lot, and I think that because I just got back, like you said, we were exhausted, but like, there are these expectations that you go that you're just never going to hit the expectations that you put for a movie. And and like you said, John, this movie, we're back in the Star Wars world. From the opening crawl to the end of the movie, we're back. Everything seems lived in. JJ did a very great job of bringing us back to what we loved about the original trilogy. There were just some issues that I had about it that we'll talk about more in our spoiler review as well. But I mean, the things that worked were, I mean, like where you said Boyega was your favorite, Daisy Ridley is a superstar. She was incredible, and what she did and the way that the mythology it was further. What you have to realize about this movie is that JJ is taking, and I've also had a lot of time to think about it as well too. I've just keep thinking about the movie too. That tell you anything. But 30 years of history, 30 years of mythology that you're taking from Return of the Jedi and putting it into this movie here in The Force Awakens, that's a lot to do. Plus, you have to introduce us to all these brand new characters. Then you have to reintroduce us to all the old characters. It's a lot of work to do, and I thought for the amount of time that he did a good job. There were just a couple things here and there that were missing, but as far as effects and all that stuff goes, no way. I mean, I have little minor gripes. Like for me, I didn't think necessarily like the John Williams score didn't hit as hard as I thought the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy. I thought the music was better in those. There wasn't anything that just stood out. Little things. And I think that one of the big things for a lot of people, and I don't necessarily have that much of a problem with it, was it does parallel A New Hope. Very much so. It does. It has a lot of, and I think that it's an homage for sure. It's not a complete rip-off of it. It's just similar to me what Creed did with Rocky. Right. And I was okay with that, and I think that some people may or may not have an issue with that. That wasn't one of my concerns, but overall, this is a movie we have been waiting for, and it is. You just get so excited to know the possibilities now. JJ set it up great, and Kasdan set it up great as to where, they gave Rian Johnson, here you go, buddy. And he just, that guy's got a gold nugget on his plate now. So overall, this is a really, really fun return for the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, I got a chance to see it yesterday. I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait to see it again.
You came back to the office last night after watching it, and you were buzzing.
I'm still buzzing, just talking about it and hearing you guys talk about it. So exciting, so well done. I could not fathom how well the new cast how much I would love them. I absolutely loved John Boyega, Daisy Ridley, and Oscar Isaacs. Oscar Isaacs, I can't wait for him to be in it more. I felt like these are the new characters that are taking over, the passing of the baton with the brand new generations. These are going to be the characters that are going to be in episode 8 and 9 and 10, 11, however many they decide to do. And I absolutely love their energy. The way the characters were all introduced was fantastic. You are with them from the very beginning to the very end. And then the way they introduce the original cast is fantastic. I absolutely loved Harrison Ford. You could tell he enjoyed being Han Solo again. And he was just great. And his back and forth with Chewie.
I love
it.
The humor. Yeah.
There's so much humor, and it's not forced. It's natural. I thought the dialogue was fantastic, and it was very Star Wars. It felt so Star Wars to me that I forgot all about the prequels. I forgot about the horror and the disappointment of that, the thing that happened 16, 17 years ago, and it transported me back to when I was a little kid, and there's Han Solo, and there's Chewie. That was the fun part. I loved Kylo Ren. I thought Adam Driver's portrayal, I liked the way that they introduced the dark side and the transformation that the dark side has gone through over the last 30 years. I liked the brand. What do they call it? The New Order? Or
First Order.
First Order. And then there's not the Republic,
Resistance.
but the Resistance. So they swapped out names. It's basically the same kind of thing.
But the Republic still
Don't give
exists
too much
as well,
away,
too.
though. Let's be careful not to give too much away.
Sorry. What Kristian said is right. It is a bit of a reboot, a rehash, but none of that bothers me. When they hired J.J. Abrams, he was fresh off Star Trek. And when he did the Star Trek reboot, he basically draped Star Wars over Star Trek and redid it. Kirk was Luke. He basically told Star Wars because he was a Star Wars fan, and they got him to redo Star Trek. Then they got him to do Star Wars, and he did a great job. I thought it was fantastic. What a minefield to navigate. When you really think about it, you're taking a property that
Asteroid
30
field.
years ago is like, people love Star Wars. And then the guy who created Star Wars kind of delivered some, prequels that weren't up to snuff. That's the guy who created Star Wars. Then you're cutting another 15, 16 years later, and you're trying to reboot the entire franchise with a fresh start. And I think he really did it. I love BB-8. I love the brand new additions. These characters are just felt like they're part of the mythology almost instantaneously. Beefs that I might have, I kind of agree a little bit with Kristian there. But once again, there's so much time that takes place over, even from Return of the Jedi to now. They have a lot of holes to fill and not a lot of, time to fill it. So there's gaps that are going to be answered, I'm sure, in episode 8 and 9 and things like that. So I'm not really disappointed with some things that weren't revealed. I'm cool with that because unlike when you saw Star Wars, you didn't know if there was ever going to be another one. We actually know that they're shooting episode 8 now. So you can feel like, all right, at least those will be answered. I don't need everything to be answered.
And we're
for
only
myself.
a year and a half away from episode 8.
Crazy.
So
So
I
you get
myself-
two Star Wars movies in a year and a half.
I don't have I was reading some of the other critics online reviews late last night, and I'm definitely not in the same. I'm in the minority as far as I thought the film was so fantastic. Those few flaws don't bother me. The reboot or rehash of the original story doesn't bother me because I think that this new version is great for a brand new generation of kids and adults, and it had that flavor of Star Wars. That there were moments in the theater when I was just remember grabbing Holly. I was like, oh my God, so excited or such great reveals that were like, whoa. I mean, those kinds of things that I can't wait to relive it again. I honestly, when we saw the film, I got out of the theater and I was like, I can't wait to see this again because there were so many moments that I just want to relive. And there was really well executed. Like I said, there's a few things here and there that might disappoint you, but overall, fantastic film. What a great return to an amazing franchise.
And I said maybe my favorite character in it, my favorite performance is that John Boyega, but I think the biggest surprise of a character and the most interesting character for me, and like I said, biggest surprise, is that of Kylo Ren. Because one of the things I was a little bit worried about, and I know a lot of people online had mentioned it, was well, Kylo looks like he's the new Darth Vader. He's just going to be Darth Vader. And a part of me was expecting that too. You are not ready for what you're going to get with Kylo Ren. Right. Kylo Ren is such an interesting character with so many different layers to him. I was so pleasantly surprised by what they gave us in Kylo Ren. He is, believe me, he is not just some Darth Vader knockoff.
I think he had the most, and not that there was so much lacking in the other ones, but I think he had the most development as far as a character of the new characters.
And he needed to.
He needed to.
Yeah.
So there's the most history and most that you get from him.
And some of the best lines in the movie.
He absolutely does, and he's not. He is not a Vader ripoff at all. And I'm just choosing my words here.
I bought that action figure because I thought he looked cool, and I was telling Holly, I was like, I'm gonna sell this action figure if the movie sucks.
Yeah,
totally keeping that action figure, and I bought the
great.
right one.
Yeah. They did it right. I think that they did it right, and they did it in a way. I think that every character was handled with respect and class, and even certain characters that you may think should be in the movie longer than they need to be. There's a couple of them. There's a couple characters you said, well, I would have liked to see more of this person. That to me means that they are playing the long game, and that because I would rather them do it the way they did, because there are a few characters in here that you're gonna wish that you would have seen more of, but you also have episodes 8 and 9, and and that also shows that they didn't try to cram everything in, because I think sometimes you get these movies with so many characters and they try to give so much time to everyone that the movie loses it because of it. So I thought that's where it did it well, even though, okay, look, that character's not in it that much, but we're going to see more of them later.
You know, and one of the other great aspects of this that I really liked about it was the humor. Because, you know, you have two different types of humor. You have the original trilogy humor. What's going on in there? We had a weapons malfunction, but everything's good. It's fine. It's all fine. We're fine. How are you? Like, there's that humor.
Yeah.
And then there's Piusa. There's that humor.
Me step in some poopy.
Yeah. This was the original trilogy humor, and it was fun and entertaining.
That's Lawrence Kasdan.
That is Lawrence
Because
Kasdan,
when you hear, he had a conversation where they were interviewing him right before, and he had a great interview, and they asked him about, he says he likes the goofy moments, and they asked him something about Lord Miller because they've done silly stuff. He's like, no, silly and goofy are very different. He said goofy is that moment John just brought up with on episode 4 when Han's talking, he shoots and he's like, that's goofy to me. That's like in the middle of all this stuff, something like that happens. It's real humor. That's what was in this movie. That's the difference when you bring in someone like Lawrence Kasdan that knows that humor, and it was evident throughout this movie.
Yes, definitely.
So don't forget, guys, we have a full spoilers review. It'll probably end up being like an hour to an hour and a half long.
Gonna get into details.
We're going to get into all the details.
And we're doing a spoiler heavy Jedi Council next week.
Yeah, next week as well. We're actually going to shoot the spoiler review today, but we're not going to air it till Friday, so keep your eyes open for that spoiler review on Friday. All right. It's that time of the week for us to talk a little bit about Rewind. This is what I call the Feeling Old segment, brought to you by our friends at AMC Theatres, where we talk about and celebrate the films celebrating their 10th anniversaries this week and their 20th anniversaries this week. And we got some good ones this week, man. Celebrating, I can't believe this, celebrating its 10th anniversary. The Peter Jackson King Kong movie, unbelievable. Also celebrating its 10th anniversary, The Family Stone. Celebrating their 20th anniversaries this week, Heat turns 20 this week. Jumanji, and one of my all-time favorite romantic comedies, Sabrina. Kristian, it's an impressive list this week of films celebrating anniversaries. Which ones stand out to you?
This is the first time I think we've done this that I have seen all of these and remember seeing all of them in the theater. Heat's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love Heat. Michael Mann, De Niro, Pacino,
Kilmer.
Because she got a great ass, and you got your head all the way up it. There's so much stuff in there, like throughout the entire movie. I love that movie because, and Val Kilmer, and Tom Sizemore. It's just, if you've never seen Heat, what a great heist movie, because it humanizes both the good and the bad. It's not black and white. There's reasoning behind it. I love that movie. Jumanji to me is a movie that it's I don't know if it's necessarily a guilty movie pleasure, but it's a movie to me that I enjoy watching every time it's on. The late great Robin Williams. It was I remember seeing that back in the day and having a lot of fun with it. And Sabrina, obviously being a remake of the Humphrey Bogart classic. And Julia Roman at the time in '95 was a big. She was like the next big thing, and she popped up all the time. It was right after like Legends of the Fall, and then as far as 10 years go with Family Stone, that was a movie I remember going, because that movie was originally called. I guess you dropped it before, but so it was originally called "Fucking Hate Her." Was the name of the script as it came in. It makes sense when you know the details of the movie, and that was a movie I was surprised by. But out of the 10 years, King Kong to me. I loved King Kong. I still think it should be in about 45 minutes. You can cut out of that movie, and and you get a great movie. It's a good movie now, but you cut out about 45 minutes to an hour, and it's a great movie. But that's when Andy Serkis, isn't that what it was like him getting ready to play Caesar?
Wasn't he like the boat chef?
Yeah. He was the chef, and he was Kong. Yeah. So and I actually thought I liked Jack Black in that role. I thought it actually worked for him. But so all those movies, a lot of fun revisiting them.
Yeah, to me, like I said, one of my has to be in my top 3 or 4 romantic comedies of all time. Harrison Ford, Greg Kinnear, Julia Ormond in Sabrina. It's a remake, and it's just absolutely brilliant. And all three of the Greg Kinnear, Harrison Ford, Julia, they were all wonderful in the movie. It's fun, it's innocent, it's light, but at the same time, it's just completely endearing. I absolutely adore that film. I've always said about Peter Jackson's King Kong, if you just take the scissors and you make one cut, and that is the beginning of the movie up to when the boat is approaching the island.
Yep.
you snip off that everything that hour that happens between the start of the movie and when the boat's approaching the island, and just have a quick 5-minute conversation setting up what they took an hour to set up in the first. It is a tight, faster moving movie. I would have enjoyed it a lot more. As it's cut, I like the movie, but I think I would have been like you. I think I would have loved it had it cut off the first hour.
Would have loved to seen the anti-cheese King Kong.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too late for some sweaty out there to do that. But you know what? If you are going to watch King Kong, I think it is a masterpiece if you start at the boat scene. So exactly what these guys are saying, I'm in full agreement with. Just start the movie, but fast forward to 40 minutes forward. Just cut out the first 40 minutes. You're not going to miss anything.
The beginning, like just when she shows up, just the setup. I think you need the setup of her in the theater and everything too, and why they recruit her.
I think you can cover that all in a 5-minute conversation on the boat. I think you can set that all up.
I'm saying the audience is smart enough to just you just start on the boat, and they'll be like, you'll figure it out. You don't need all that setup. And I personally feel like it was so much setup that if you start right on the boat, without even any editing, just start on the boat, that you'll be smart enough to figure out all these different characters and what they're trying to do, why are they trying to get to Kong Island. And then I would also cut out that dinosaur chase, the fight scene that's where the dinosaurs are all running.
Chasing them, right.
I thought you meant the T-Rex fight.
No,
I'm like, what are you talking about?
No. I'm talking about like the scene of Jack Black with a bunch of
he's got the camera and he's running around them.
So I guess if that was going to have minor quibbles, but start 45 minutes in is a great film, and I love King Kong. I love the story, and Peter Jackson did a great remake of it. The one that stands out for me the most is Heat. I absolutely love that film. You're right. That was the first time that they had Pacino and De Niro. And I think in that movie there was only one scene that they're in together, and it's in this restaurant, and they're facing each other, and it's a great scene with two great actors at their peak right then. And of course, you always hear about this. If you only heard about it, you should experience it. That there's that gunfight, the gun battle at the bank. Definitely check that out. It's a really well-made film. It's one of Michael Mann's best films, I think, or it's in the top 5 of his filmmaking history. So check out Heat. It's great.
All right, folks, so it's that time of the show now for Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you'd like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at collidervideo@gmail.com. Now, at the end of the show, we're going to save a little bit of time to take some of your live questions. So if you're watching us live right now, and we do the show live every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Los Angeles time, you can start tweeting in some questions to @collidervideo. Ashley will pick some out near the end of the show to take some of your live questions. But for first, let's get to the mailbag questions. So, Ashley, what do you got?
Paul writes, so Collider, explain this to me like I'm 5. Sounds like from the recent discussion about Spider-Man, Marvel did not really get him back. Yes, they got the rights to use the character in their films, and Sony got the rights to use other Marvel characters in their Spider-Man films, but the upcoming new Spider-Man standalone movie will still be a Sony movie, not Marvel movie, even though it will be considered part of the MCU. Am I right or am I wrong? Thanks and remain your awesome selves.
It is kind of crazy how many people still don't understand. I mean, there's a lot of people, so don't feel bad about it. There's an awful lot of people that still don't get how this arrangement works. Because I get tweets about it. I know you get tweets about it all the time, asking people everything about it. So just to lay it out one more time. Sony and Marvel entered into a deal, I believe in April, is when the deal got struck. And basically it's this. Remember, Sony has the license. They have the rights to do the Spider-Man movies, and Marvel didn't. Marvel, or Sony, I should say, was not going to give it up. They just weren't. Even though they just had a big letdown with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they had had enough success with the characters in Raimi's first Spider-Man, Raimi's second Spider-Man, Webb's first Spider-Man, and they had Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
But Spider-Man 3 made a lot of money.
Oh, made a ton of money. That's because everybody was so excited because of Spider-Man 2.
Right.
But so they knew they had a winner property, so they weren't going to give it up. But they also knew they needed help, because they needed something to reinvigorate the character. So they and Marvel made a deal. And the basics of the deal is this. Sony keeps the rights to Spider-Man. They are in charge of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is still, when it comes to feature films, Spider-Man is still a Sony property. However, the deal they made was that Marvel really wanted to use Spider-Man. So Spider-Man can now appear in Marvel MCU movies, pending Sony's approval on the script and how the character is used. So Sony's got to give all approval for what Spider-Man is used in, but Marvel can use him. And Now, Sony can have some Marvel Cinematic characters show up in their standalone movie. So when you see Captain America Civil War, that is a Marvel production with Spider-Man in it. When you watch the new Spider-Man standalone movie, that is a Sony production with some help from Marvel. Because while Sony's people are now acting as producers on the MCU stuff that Spider-Man appears in, Kevin Feige will also function as a producer on Sony's standalone Spider-Man movies. So yes, Spider-Man still, lock, stock, still belongs to Sony, but they made a really good deal that I think benefits both sides, and we will get our first taste of it when we see Spider-Man in Civil War.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing as well, too, though. With yes, it is still Sony's movie and still Sony's property, but by making that deal as well, don't be fooled that Marvel has a lot of say in a lot of the story that's happening too, because it is part of their universe now. Because they're not just going to let Sony say, "Oh yeah, you know what? Yeah, you guys can give notes on our movie, and then just go make whatever you want to make because the last one you made was amazing." It's not going to happen. They're going to say, because you're part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Kevin Feige is a producer on the film. Okay, what are we doing for the standalone? Let our team help. We have been successful so far. Trust us in helping you out as well, too. Okay, great. That's your story. How about you guys do this now, too? Those meetings are happening and will happen. And with Sony's new leadership and stuff, I would be surprised if they weren't as inviting to Marvel as they could be, because...
Oh, they'd be fools not to.
And they would, because back before this deal, they couldn't do that. If you have Marvel and you can make that phone call, it's like the reference I was making the other day with Colin Trevorrow being able to call Spielberg anytime he wants. Right. You call Marvel. Call him every single time. It's like, Kevin, we're thinking about doing this. Think this is going to work for Spider-Man? Yes. So the collaboration is beneficial for both. And I think that Marvel will have a lot of input in the Sony movie, as well as, and Sony's going to be inviting of that because Sony's movie now is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I guess it's just the bottom line, though, and you're right, that all that open communication will be, and like I said, Sony would be fools to not take advantage of it. But if a scenario, this is where it comes down to. If you get a scenario where they're putting together the Sony the standalone Spider-Man movie, and Sony says our villain is going to be Kraven, and Kevin Feige says, I really think your villain should be Lizard, but Sony says, no, we really want it to be Kraven, and so it's going to be... ultimately, Sony will make that final call, although they'd be pretty stupid not to listen to Kevin Feige and take whatever he says. Anyway, Schnepp, how do you see that whole deal?
Well, you guys pretty much explained it right, but I think I'll tag off from what Kristian was saying. Like, I think it makes sense that now that Spider-Man is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even though the companies themselves are separate, Sony and Disney, the deal that was made is they're pals in this venture.
They're partners in this.
Yeah. Partners in this venture. So it makes total sense for Captain America or Iron Man to make a cameo in this Spider-Man movie because it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't care if it's Sony or Disney, whoever's name is at the front, they're going to split up the money, and whatever back dealings are have nothing to actually do with what we're watching as a movie. So for us as fans, we get to see Spider-Man now become part of the cinematic universe, have interactions. Maybe he'll show up in Doctor Strange. Maybe Doctor Strange will do a cameo in Spider-Man 2. Plus, this helps Sony in what was their master plan when they announced The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They were going to have the Sinister Six. They were going to have all these spin-offs, Black Cat, Venom. I think they're still going to do that, but now it's going to be within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, wherein now Venom can possibly interact with a bunch of other Marvel characters that are owned by Disney. I think it's a great way to like synergistically intertwine the entire, create a web, so as you might say, of Spider-Man characters in the Marvel universe. Well, I think it's great.
It's a great play. It's a good marketing play as well too, because let's say there's a lesser known character. Like, I mean, look at something what Marvel's just able to do in general. Let's say, because now we have Black Panther. To comic book fans, obviously, are very familiar with Black Panther. People who aren't familiar with comics might not know who he is. What a way to showcase him by putting him in Civil War.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sony now can do that with villains or with anybody if they needed to. They want to say, well, look, we want to get this particular character introduced in an Avengers movie or whatever too. Can we put him in there first? Does it work? They could do it that way and then put him in.
If Marvel approves
If Marvel approves. Yeah. And if it makes sense for both the cinematic universe in general, that's a way to do it. So let's say the first Spider-Man movie is super successful. They're going to do a part 2. Hey, can we debut this villain in this movie in the MCU for you guys? It's just a great way to market it.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Caleb Joins writes, I was wondering what you think the best movie with Will Farrell in the lead role is. For me, it would have to be either Elf or Anchorman. I'm looking forward to his new movie, Daddy's Home.
This is a constant struggle for me because there are many Will Ferrell movies I like. There are a number of Will Ferrell movies I do not like. But the two that I'm constantly jumping back and forth between is my favorite. One is the aforementioned Anchorman. That movie is freaking genius. That movie's so funny. And what an ensemble cast. Like, at the time, we didn't know how good that cast was at the time. But now you stand back. Paul Rudd, Steve Carell, Will Ferrell. I mean, it's just...
Keckner.
Yeah, Keckner.
Yep.
David, right?
Yep. Yeah.
It's such a great... And they had such great chemistry together. Amazing. But then the other one for me that I go back to quite often is Step Brothers. Him and John... and I know a lot of people don't even like Step Brothers.
I still haven't seen Step Brothers.
I laugh my freaking ass off every scene, every time. I can watch that movie once a month and still laugh my ass off every single time. And the comedic chemistry between John C. Reilly and Will Farrell is just off the chart. It's so good. It's by far I like it more than the other one they did together, Talladega Nights, and that was a fine movie too. But so for me, it's back and forth between Anchorman and Step Brothers. What about you?
All-time
I
favorite.
can't believe you haven't seen Step Brothers.
I'll see it with you.
I thought you would love it.
I do want to see it. It's on my list. Anchorman. When I saw that in the theater, laughing out loud, went back to the theater at least 4 more times to see it in the theater. It was so much fun. What a great cast. Amazingly well written by Adam McKay and Will Ferrell. Great film. So that's my all-time Will Ferrell favorite.
So I don't think Old School counts because he's not really the lead of it.
Right, he's
but
like
Old School's my
supporting.
favorite. Yeah. I think he was the best in that. But I'd say Elf. I think that it also showcased what Jon Favreau, again, I know that he had done other stuff, obviously, but that was really his return to the big budget stuff, or showed us what he could do, the reason he got Iron Man. But I think that he worked really well with Will Ferrell in that film, and the chemistry between Will Ferrell and James Caan. It's a good Christmas. It's one of the best Christmas movies that's out there right now too. So I'd say Elf.
Ashley, what would you say is your favorite Will Ferrell movie?
Elf. Will Ferrell's one of those actors that everything he comes out with, I have to go see. He's that actor for me. Elf, 100%. Just seeing his huge body, being an elf, like who would think to do that? I love that. I think he's absolutely hilarious.
And who played his dad?
James Caan.
No. His elf dad.
Oh.
That was the super famous 70s actor, Bob Newhart.
Oh, Bob
Newhart,
Newhart,
who was
right,
awesome in that.
right.
So, and Elf apparently. All right. What's final mailbag question? Then we will get to your live Twitter questions.
Alexander Mallon writes, I remember you mentioning how the winter weather could impact the first weekend box office sales. With the warm weather we are having, 60 degrees in Pennsylvania, what do you think the box office total will be for opening weekend? Will weather play any part in adding or subtracting this prediction?
99% of the time, I don't think weather plays any part, because it's somewhere in the country right now, there's some really bad weather. And somewhere in the country, there's some really great weather. It's a big country. It's a really big place. And I don't think weather deters. If I'm thinking about going to the movies, I'm not going to go, oh, it's raining outside. I'm not going to go to the movie. That doesn't, now it happens with some people, yes. But whenever any movie comes out, some places there's bad weather, some places they're great weather. Now, once in a while, the entire eastern seaboard is being buried in 7 feet of snow. That's a little different, but that's very rare. So ultimately, in relation to every other movie that opens with some good weather, some bad weather, I really don't think it's going to affect it that much at all. As far as our final prediction, for a long time, I said, look, it's December. Previous record in December was 83 million. And I said 150 million. About 6 weeks ago, I radically adjusted my prediction to 250. And then about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I backed it down to about 230. I'm sticking at 230. My final prediction for the opening weekend box office, Star Wars: The Force Awakens, is going to be an opening weekend of $230 million opening weekend. Kristian, you're like me. You've done a little bit of shifting back and forth. What is going to be your final number?
Well, yeah, and I actually do think weather does, if living in the East Coast, and I know you live in Canada, so you've had the weather as well too, but I actually remember it being a factor as far as snow, but I think that like the viewer is saying, the weather has been very different right now, and especially right now, this weekend. So I do think it's going to factor into it. But I would say I've been changing as well, too. I'm going to say final prediction, 195. I think 195 is going to be the number that I will stick with.
All right, Schnepp, what about you?
I'm not going to wiffle waffle like these guys over here. I said 250 it is. I like that picture, though. Did you guys see that? I would endure that to see
I did not
the
see that
Force
picture.
Awakens.
It's like watching it at Hoth.
Yeah, it's like you're on Hoth watching Star Wars.
That is how Canadian. You put that up in Canada. Canadians will go and watch that movie just like that.
Yeah, Canadians say, "Oh, it looks warm."
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's our predictions right there. All right, folks, I said we would take some time for your live questions, and we're going to do that right now. Once again, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Collider Video. Fire on in your questions. Ashley is the gatekeeper. She will pick out a couple now. And Ashley, what have you picked out?
Jonathan Peck writes, which animation film director would you like to see to translated into a live action film? My pick would be Pete Docter.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got a chance to already see Andy Stanton do one, and I liked what he ended up with John Carter, just a brutally marketed film, horribly marketed movie. But I ended up really enjoying John Carter, so that was good. I mean, so I would have to then go back. I would love to see Lasseter. I would love to see Lasseter direct a live action film. I'd be very, very curious to see what he did. We already got a chance to see
Bird.
We already got to see Brad Bird do live, and we had a great result.
Mission Impossible 4.
And then
Right,
mediocre result with
Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland. But we're really looking forward to seeing what he does next. But just stay on Incredibles 2, Brad. So I got to see Stanton. I'm left with Lasseter. What about you?
Dave Filoni.
That would be interesting.
Dave,
yeah.
I actually spoke to Dave Filoni, who's he's the executive producer of Star Wars Rebels. Spoke to him at the premiere, and I talked to him for a little bit, and I told him, I said, dude, I want to see you do an anthology movie. He's like, keep talking it up, man. He's like, I want to do it. He's like, I'd love to do it. He'd love to do one, and he'd love to do a live action too. You watch what he's done with Rebels. You watch what he's done in general with the storytelling of Clone Wars, and I think that he would produce and direct an amazing Star Wars anthology film, whether it be an Obi-Wan movie or whatever it is. I think he's a guy I'd love to see do live action.
I would love to see Filoni take over the Underworld series. That remember Lucas was developing.
Yeah,
He wrote 52 scripts,
right.
and then Kathleen Kennedy was like,
Hey, look.
The 1313. Oh yeah, the Underworld,
the Underworld
TV,
scripts.
right,
Yeah,
right.
they're like 52 full hour-long scripts. So they're like, no, we're looking through those right now. We're not saying that that's not happening. We're going to adapt those. He would be great because he's so good at taking elongated series and making that happen. Was he wearing the cowboy hat?
Yeah,
Yes.
he did.
Yeah.
It was
That's
a
his thing.
black one. It was a little different with the black suit.
Nice.
He went up a level.
Yeah,
If
I
you
think
want to play a game, who can tell these two guys from behind? Robert Rodriguez and Dave Filoni.
Yeah, that's
Right.
Yeah.
I can't tell.
I think you guys listed off all the ones that I could remember. It's like Lasseter, Bird's already doing stuff.
All right, what's next?
Alex McClinter writes, taking my girlfriend to see the movie tomorrow. However, she's never seen any of the Star Wars films. Will she still enjoy the movie?
The bigger question is, why are you with her?
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Like, are you in a part of the country where there's a disproportionate number of men to women?
Right. And there's still the other question is there's still hours left in the day. Why isn't she watching the other ones
why
right
are
now?
you not like? What is wrong with you? How can you look her in the face and say I care about you, yet you are not sitting her down to watch the original trilogy? You've got a lot of hours left today. Sit down, bring her on over, pick up some popcorn. Look, you can watch. Having seen the movie now, I can say you can watch The Force Awakens, having never seen anything else, and just enjoy it as a standalone movie. You can.
Well,
Okay, I've
you
seen
saw it.
all the Star
you
Wars
have, but-
movies.
but
I
did you
have.
remember? Did you remember them?
Right.
Because you
The
saw them
thing
when you were
is,
younger, right?
I don't like pee, poop, throw up over Star Wars the way these guys do. I like Star Wars, but this
What's up with
movie,
that Phasma nail polish?
Okay, this movie, I think you will really enjoy regardless if you've seen any of the Star Wars. They definitely tip their hats to the hardcore, devout fans to Star Wars, but I think you'll still really like it, even if you're not a hardcore fan.
I think
Hashtag pee, poop, throw up.
I think if you're a gal or guy has not seen Star Wars, you can always throw these lines because they won't know any of the lines of Star Wars. So the next time they say "I love you," you could say "I know." And just come off as like the dashing scoundrel that you are. They won't get the reference. So, but definitely, I think if they've never seen any of the Star Wars movies and you take them to see The Force Awakens, and they will love it.
I agree.
Then you get a chance to say, "Hey, check out this other movie, amazing thing. It's called Star Wars: A New Hope. It came out maybe before you were born. It was a blockbuster. Let's watch that together."
I think that's what's going to happen though, because let's say your girlfriend has never seen it before, and then you take her and she loves it. She's going to want to see the history. She's going to want to learn more about it. There are a couple things that happen though in the movie that I think that there'll be more to it if you go back and watch the other ones too. You won't be lost. You certainly won't be lost, but you'll have more of an impact on you if you go and watch the other ones.
Man, it'll be cooler if you just say, yeah, there's only 4, 5, and 6. They never made 1, 2, and 3. And she's like, I know, but there's these. Nah, that doesn't count.
Anti-cheese.
Yeah.
Or watch the anti-cheese ads. All right, let's take a couple more.
Okay, Shaz Shahid writes, big fan of the show. Who is the most iconic character and why? Solo, Rambo, Terminator, Vader, Batman, Indiana Jones.
Whoa, let me see that list again.
List off that list again. Read it out loud.
Let me see, where are they?
That's a
Right
big
here.
list.
It's a great list.
Solo, Balboa, Rambo, Terminator, Vader, Batman, Indiana Jones. I think you got to take Vader out because of everything going on right now.
Nah, you can keep him in. Batman wins hands down, takes all those punks out. Batman for me.
I see. To me, it's either Batman or Vader. Because I don't know if there's any corner of the globe you can go to and show a picture of Vader or a picture of Batman and have somebody not know who they are.
I know, but I know who Batman is. He's Bruce Wayne, and I know who Darth Vader is. Little baby Anakin.
Yeah,
Yippee!
Ruins it.
We're talking
Who
about Darth
cares?
Vader, though. Yeah.
We're talking about Vader.
Iconic characters.
Yeah, it's tight.
I know, but now I
It's
see
tight.
a little baby Anakin now. You can't say
If
you
you
don't
hear-
see
if you-
Anakin Sky Annie.
If you
I don't
say,
see it.
if I
No?
go, you know right away who the character is.
All right.
I'm going Vader. And I think that it's also because of everything happening right now. Yeah, I know. But even him, you can still forgive all that nonsense that happened with him hating sand and all that stuff. It leads into an incredible character because going back into reading these books and the comics and everything, when you see, or even Rebels, when you go into Siege of Lothal and you see that character, he's terrifying. He is a character that you recognize from the breathing, from the mask, everything that was put together. That could have been the silliest character in the history of film when he walked out. I'm sure people on the set were like, what is that? And the way that he's down, and you add James Earl Jones' voice to him, Batman's no joke, and he's a badass for sure. But he's also had, if you want to throw that at me, I can throw George Clooney at you.
Boo! Don't throw George Clooney at me. All right, I say it's a tie, Christian. It's
close.
You gotta get all
Yeah,
hardball with me.
I gotta
Throw
call it
Batman
a tie,
and Robin
too.
at me. What's going on? I thought we were friends.
All right, last question of the day.
Kimberly Grosser writes, what are the chances of a Flashpoint movie in the DCCU?
It is difficult to say until we see Batman v Superman, because once we see Batman v Superman, then we're going to get a much better feel about where they're going with everything. Man of Steel was the first film of this new series of films, yes, but I think they're really going to set their direction and they're really going to set their tone with Batman v Superman. And once we see that, then we can say, well, what do we think of the chances of them doing this storyline or that storyline or whatever? It's hard to say when we haven't seen Batman v Superman yet. What do you guys think?
I'm going to defer to the expert here.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, like, the jury's kind of out. I mean, Marvel did it the way where they built their universe and then had this big, group thing. Batman v Superman, we got Man of Steel, and now we have everybody else is in this big movie. It's really hard to catch the tone of the film, especially with the disparate trailers. Like the first trailer, I was totally all in. Second trailer made me question a lot of stuff. So until I actually see the entire film as a whole, it's really hard to tell about all the rest of the films.
Yeah, I gotta agree, and I gotta see how it's gonna play out because we could be completely wrong from the way what we saw with the trailer too, and I kind of hope that we just assume certain things because we saw the way it was cut, but it's hard to judge the other films before we see this one.
Right, and Flashpoint is definitely something that won't happen in the next 5-10 years. That's something that you have to develop all the other cinematic characters in order for it to matter to have a Flashpoint. Otherwise, it's useless.
All right, folks, that will do it for us for this installment of Collider Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, lots of great films like Star Wars The Force Awakens starting tomorrow, playing at our friends over at AMC Theatres. Head on over to www.amctheatres.com for all of your theater showtime and, of course, your movie ticket information. Do us a favor, click the thumbs up button. That's a way of letting us know you like the video. Take this video, share it on your Facebook and your Twitter. Be an evangelist for Collider Movie Talk. Get the word around, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just click on the subscribe button right there. I want to thank the guy sitting at the table with me. First of all, sitting to my left, Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, just at John Schnepp. You can catch all of us tomorrow night at the AMC 16, checking out the 11 o'clock Star Wars Force Awakens. I think it's sold out, so all you sweaties will be in line with you. And check out my film, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, by going to tdoslwh.com. Support independent film.
Of course, sitting over here, Mr. Kristian Harloff. Kristian, where can people find you?
Well, at Kristian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram. And like John said, make sure that once you see the movie, you check out our spoiler heavy review of The Force Awakens, and make sure also you come back. We're going to have Jedi Council this week for sure, and then next week we're going to have I think we'll probably do it the day before Christmas Eve, like 23rd, one of the two.
I
We're
can't
figuring
remember.
it out. We're figuring it out.
Yes.
Either 23rd or 24th. Myself, John Schnepp will be on the show, and we're working on a special guest, so make sure you watch our spoiler heavy episode of Jedi Council next week.
And of course, our lovely host's name is Ashley Mova. Ashley, where can people find you?
Twitter, Instagram at Ashley Mova. Happy Wednesday, guys.
And of course, you can find me on the various social media networks. Make sure you're following me at John Campea. That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us for Collider Video, and until next time, bye-bye.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.